Hello, girls. My name is Nancy, and I have been teaching decorative art and all types of birds and things since 1978. So I'm an old lady, and I'm glad we don't see my picture. Anyway, I am here to get your prep ready for your butterfly plate and show you two ways I did this background. If you look over in this corner, you're going to see some Prussian blue in the background, a touch of deep burgundy here, and then we're going to merge it with some light buttermilk. Now I'm going to give you two ways to do this. I am one that likes to use this brush right here for doing all of my backgrounds. And I have a board here ready to show you how I do it. The reason I use this is because I want it to be very eggshell, almost like a tooth feel to it when I am base coating something. And it really helps me to feel that it feels just like the top of an egg. So the first thing I do is I will take my sponge brush and I dip it into a bucket of water, or you can do this at the kitchen sink. Usually I'm at the kitchen sink. And I wet the sponge. Now you can't use a cloth sponge, and I know that a lot of y'all know that. Then you want to really squeeze at it. See that water dropping out of there right into that bowl. And that's a good looking bucket, but I've had it about as long as I've been around. So I want to make sure there's no dripping water, even with my hand. There's none coming out, but it is down. Okay. I used a soft, let me move that out of the way, soft blue, and I am shaking it up. I always shake it up again because it just sits there a few minutes, and I just took it and squirted on play like this is your surface or your wooden box. I think Carolyn said they were about 6 inches. Then I just roll it. Now, if your brush is too wet, you're gonna get a whole lot of big bubbles. And I want to keep rolling it and spreading it till I get it really like I want it. And I give it 2 coats. And we'll just come up here real quick. You see how fast that travels. I paint the inside and the outside of everything the same way, and I'll use a small sponge brush to get in tight areas in my box. Just a regular little, but not a roller, just a sponge brush to get in. That's covered. Now, I would let that dry, and I do it a second time. I'm going to come in close because I want you to see the texture. It is no bubbles. It is very, very smooth. And if you get bubbles, you can lightly, I'm barely letting it roll over to take any air bubbles or anything left in there. Because think about how an egg feels. It's a little bit bumpy, but not real bumpy. It's pretty smooth. But that's the technique I use for the style of painting that I do, which you'll be learning about when we start in February. So I'm going to set that aside and let it dry, and then I give it a second coat. Now, as I put that aside, I have one ready that I have given a second coat. And I'm going to back the camera up here a little bit where you can see the whole thing. This was a 10-inch plate, and Carolyn suggested that you may want to take your scissors and cut out different things and place it on your smaller box than this one is. Now, this is what I did, and what I want to tell you why there is 2 ways of doing your background, and you do what's best that suits you. Now, the first way I did was the one I just showed you. I give it its second coat and allow it to dry. Then I do my background. The other way is I put on my second coat, let it dry, and then transfer my pattern. And I will mist it with, I'll go outside and I mist it with Krylon Matte 1311 because I wanted to know exactly where I was putting colors. And I will be working, just be sure you go out and spray it and leave it long enough for it to dry. If you can even smell it, it's still causing you some problems. This has a cancer agent in it, so you don't want to spray it in your home. And we've learned that the hard way. And I smoke a lot of surfaces with a candle, and you have to go outside to do that. Now, what I did, that fixed my pattern because I wanted to know exactly where it was going to be showing up on here with my pattern. Now, if you don't want to do it that way, don't want to fool with going out to spray and your weather up there, I understand that. So that's why I'm saying you don't have to put your pattern on until you finished your background all together and it's dried, and then you can put your pattern however you have chosen to place it. So I work with two other products. I either use Joe Sonia's Retarder Medium, or I use Deco Art's Tradition Extender and Paint Blending Medium. Today I have put in here, and I keep it in a little cup, and this is the type of painting you'll be learning that I do next time we're together, and you may need to pick up one of those if you have it or can get to it. If you don't, I've got plenty on hand. So this is what's in my cup. It's the retarder. You're going to need for your background colors, and I use Deco Art's Americana in the bottle. You're going to use Prussian Blue, Deep Burgundy, and Light Buttermilk. The color that I base coated with is called Soft Blue or any pale blue. And then I guess Carolyn has sent y'all, or you will know the colors that you will be using. I'm just giving these a quick shake. Especially your reds, your pigments gather in the bottom all the time in reds, and they're a little transparent anyway. So we're going to get out. Let me move this brush back out of the way, our roller brush. So you now know how I put on my surface. This is my Stay Wet palette. This is just a bar of ivory soap, how I clean my brushes, and this is just an extra paper towel, and this is the retarder I just showed you. So I'm going to get out Prussian Blue first, at the size of a quarter, and it'll spread out a little bit on you. You don't need quite as much Deep Burgundy, and y'all probably don't need that much with the 6-inch box, and then some Light Buttermilk. I don't work much with white because I paint a lot of wildlife. So therefore I use Light Buttermilk. So if I say white, you only got one on there that looks white, but it's a warm white, Light Buttermilk. Then I take my varnish brush, which looks like that. It's 1.5 inches. I'm gonna wet it in the water because I have soap on my brush. I clean my brushes with the ivory soap, and I leave the soap on my brush, and that keeps every hair in place. I do that to all my brushes, plain ivory soap. Then I'm gonna take this retarder, dip it in, and I'm gonna dampen the whole top if this were a box. And then you can still see that it doesn't remove any of your graphite. And if you like, you can, if you choose to do this method, you can always go over your pattern line with a pencil if needed, because when you spray it, it will fix it on there. All right, so here I come. I'm going to come in with just about a little bit starting out of the Prussian blue. Okay, back to the plate. And I wanted my Prussian blue to, I'm going to blend one time, I got a lot on there, to be on the left side of the plate and graduate over. So I just started. Now when it hits that retarder, now I don't have a top box edge, so I'm just kind of going over that right now, coming down, and I want to blend it and come over and see it doesn't come out straight Prussian blue, and I wanted that color in here. Then I worked it over. I do see a pretty good looking cat hair there, but cat, that's my mark. If it doesn't have a cat hair in it, girls, I didn't paint it. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of the deep burgundy, and again I come out to the edge, and you can see that's going to create a little bit of a lavender with your blue, and I'm going to come right in the middle, working it up. I kind of wanted some of him around the butterfly and down at the bottom of the plate, and back in, you're working back toward your blue. Now I did use a mop brush to soften it. And the next, but I waited until I had all my colors on and then softened. The next and last color is the light buttermilk. So I want to start over in the far right-hand corner. And it's going to have some, I did not clean my brush. It's going to have some of those colors in it. And as you can see, you can still see the butterfly quite well. And I blended that back towards those other colors. I wanted it to be very soft. If you need a touch more white, you always can welcomely pick it up. I'm merging it back or blending back just towards the flowers and softening it. And that's about how I want it. So I would lay my brush down. I do use a mop brush for this, and I just softened it out a little bit. I didn't want it to be too fixed. I didn't worry about what was inside the flowers. That wasn't my problem. I want it out here. And I'm just twirling it softly. And that, girls, is how I got ready for your background. I let that dry, and I am ready to go and do my next step, which is painting. I'm in Hickory, North Carolina. It's in the 30s. It's supposed to be in the 20s in the morning, maybe some snow Thursday. We haven't had anything to brag about. And I've been painting since 1970, I'm not going to tell you. And I have 2 books in the Library of Congress, and I have authored about 26 and a bunch of articles taught nationally and internationally. I paint about like I talk, so y'all will be able to keep up. Slow. So if there's anything you want to know, now's a good time to ask me. I've been teaching online now for about 1.5 years, and that's been going pretty good. I hadn't gone Zoom yet. I've kept it on private online class. So if you don't want to ask me anything, I'll go back here and we'll get started. Carolyn, what do you think?
I think that sounds good.
No questions, girls? Nobody gonna say a word? Somebody's wondering about it. If you ask,
what were the paint mixes that you were talking about when I'm
gonna tell you all about that in 1 second. So I'm gonna switch cameras, okay? And there we are. I'm gonna go to the surface, and there's our plate. And I'm gonna move. and I want you to have a pencil. Let me grab one thing here. Now, can everybody see this plate? Right here in front of you, we can zoom in and zoom out very close when we get to the butterfly. Plus, I have you a great big one, but we don't need to do that at this point. I wanted you to first have a pencil because there was some corrections in your instructions. And I read over it and I thought, well, I can't teach that because that's not quite the way it was. So at the top of your pattern packet, I would like for you to put that you're going to see a mix 2 and a 5. The mix 5 was actually a typo. It was supposed to be mix 1. You will hear me refer to mix 1. There is not a mix 2 nor a 5. So wherever you see mix 2, you need to put it was mix 1. And we will mix a number 1. Did everybody catch that? Okay, yeah. Now the floral brush, which I'm going to move to show you. I had a floral brush. I think y'all can see that right there pretty clear. That had Nancy Kinney's floral brush over here. And I've had them about 10 years and they made wonderful brush strokes. And I had some health issues about 3 years ago and sold out of them. And when I went to have them made again, they were twice the price to put my name on. And I said, well, I want the same brush. So how much is it without my name on it? So they sent me this one, which is the same as this one, without a name on it. And this is a filbert, number 2, Black Gold by Dynasty, FM Brush Company up in New York, makes all my brushes. And I have 2 other ones, the two dappers. And if you look at these, I'm gonna bring it in closer where you can see something here. They have a very good chisel edge. Can you see how straight across that chisel edge is? Right there, across the front of it. Just like it would be if you were working with a flat brush. That is your chisel edge right across the front. Now, the main thing I want you to learn about is the chisel edge. And that's what I wanted to go over with. But as far as corrections in your instructions, that was it. I put down, this is a number 6 filbert. And if you want the number of it, it is a 206 filbert. FIL is what they call it, black gold. It's a wonderful brush. And if you look at the tip of it, it is very, very skinny. And if I turn it on its chisel edge, I get almost a dagger. And that is why I loved these brushes. But I didn't want to pay double to put my name on there. And I didn't think it was fair to y'all when I could get the same brush half price. So that's where that came to be born. So now I use that brush. But I still keep my dabbers because there's nothing that takes the place of them that I have found. Now, I work, let me back up again, where you can see this, with chisel blenders. And this is the bird. I'm looking at it from this side because if I put you on top of it, you're going to see my hand and my head. So I've got you to the side. So can everybody see okay? I don't see anybody across the top, but that's okay. Carolyn, you would let me know if they can't see, right?
They can see beautifully.
Okay. Now, we can't get all this done in 2 hours. And your background, we started with Prussian blue, and I did a video for you, and we came across and we added light buttermilk and worked back with it. Now, I do a lot of wildlife. I do realistic. I'm not I guess a cutesy painter. I want to paint a cat, I want it to look like a cat. If I paint a cardinal, I want it to look like a cardinal. I don't know how I got into hydrangeas, but I've been doing them for years and years and years. And got 3 beautiful bushes that my husband has given me out in my backyard that just do beautiful, all colors and kinds. So how I did them, I don't know, but I love to paint them. And there are several ways you can paint them. There's several shapes, there's several varieties, but this is just a soft one that is a beautiful plate that you can, colors in it that you can put on about any color background that you chose. Now, this is going to be to you a total different type of painting. And the reason is I was basically an oil painter. I painted with oils when I started in the 70s, and we learned to mix colors. So excuse me for hacking. We learned to mix colors. And so therefore, if I turn my camera, you're going to see the amount of paint I have right there. About 14 colors. And I look at all the paint you have in behind you and think, my goodness, I bet every one of them has got paint boogers in them. And they get all clogged up. And so I just taught a beginner's class for 6 weeks, and we started from scratch and learned to mix colors because there's a lot of colors we can't get right now. So we learned to mix them, and I took that with, and then we went from brushes and did the whole works, and then finally painted a hummingbird with a daisy. So that's basically how that's coming about. Now, I wanted to go over mainly with you, and I'm gonna move this aside, and we won't get into, well, I can get into this real quick. This is a value scale. Now, and I'm going over things quickly, not like we would if we had 4 or 5 hours, but what you're doing basically is when you base in something like a leaf, which we'll be doing, we want to use our middle value, our medium value. Then you're going to add a dark value or a shadow color over here in that area, and then you're going to add a light value. But the 3 main things you want is your medium value, your dark value, and your light value, okay? What that means is when you mix your medium value with your dark values, you're going to create all these values in between. And when I add my light value and blend over into my medium value, I create all of these. Does that make sense to you girls? You're creating a whole lot of values that you don't even know you're creating. And I have a nephew that teaches art at the UNC in North Carolina University. And he says the main thing you got to strive for is your medium value, your dark, and your light. When you blend those, you create many values. And that's what makes your work have depth and creates that soft look. So is everybody with me on that? You can just shake your head or give me a thumbs up. So that's that. That's what I wanted to go over with you. Now, here is the problem, or not, it's not a problem, but here's what I really wanted you to know, because this is probably the most important thing for me to tell you that we'll be doing. And then we'll start. This is your brush, okay? The most important part of your brush is your, well, the hairs or the filament that's inside the brush. When you first start out, people go out and they go purchase the cheaper brushes, and you're sometimes asking a brush to do something it can't do. It's like me going to get a screwdriver when I need pliers. And sometimes it won't do what you want it to do. Now, there are 2 types. This is a flat brush, just a flat brush, like I'm showing you right here. That's a flat brush. It's straight up the sides, and that's called the sides. This all in here is your flat surface. That's as it. I'm not going to take time to write all that out. If I'm painting the side of the house, I'm using the flat surface, or if you're basing in something, you're using the flat surface of the brush. Okay, now, this is your corners. If I take this brush, and let's pretend that this is a pile of paint, and I tip this corner in that paint, I might blend one time to make sure that I don't have a hunk of paint, or I can dip the other corner in and blend to make sure I don't have a hunk of paint. So those are referred to as your corner. This is your ferrule, and with my type of painting, I'm usually holding on to the ferrule because I'm a detail painter. Detail painters, and of course down here is your handle, and sometimes you're using the handle. And but what I'm concerned the most with is this part here. That is called your chisel edge. If you don't learn nothing, you're going to hear me say chisel, 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 chisel. And what does that mean? And you'll hear me say, now we're going to get into this chiseling again. You'll be hearing it in your sleep. But even butterflies and birds, their hair overlaps each other into each other. And you have to learn to chisel your colors into each other. If you don't, and you just stop where something stops, you'll always have a line, and we'll get more into that. But first, let me go over this with you. This is a number, when I termed it, number 12 flat chisel blender. Okay, you have a chisel blender and you have a shader. And your shader, this is the same size right here, a number. Well, this is a 10. I was going to show you the 10. I wanted you to see the same. The difference. Can you see the difference in the length of the, let me lay them flat and bring these in.
They can see the difference. You don't have to pull it in.
Okay, let me back up. Okay, now, the main thing I need for you to have is a chisel blender or a good chisel edge. Because with my type of painting, I don't want a lot of water in here. I don't float. I'm not objective to floating. I don't see how you're putting it on as long as you're getting it on. But when I'm in here and I am working on something and I don't have anything, well, my cat is here all of a sudden and I'll have to probably get up and get him. Let's look back. Let's look at this for a second. This bird, okay? And this is a project coming up that I think Vicki Michael signed up for, and this is the mat she wants. And it has just some plastic over it to cover it. If I take this red and chisel down, I'm using the chisel edge of the brush. The yellow's got to chisel back up into that red. So that's called chisel blending. If you just came here and stopped and had a line where that is, that line would always be there. And that's what gives it its softness. If I come in a little bit closer, you're going to see that this yellow is chiseled over the black using what? The chisel edge of my brush. So I want my brush to be super skinny, super flat, and in good shape. And this is what I use right here, plain old bar of ivory soap to clean my brushes. And I know that when I have my paint, this bar of soap is clean. This is ivory soap. That brush is clean. There's no paint left in it. I flatten it out and stand it up, and that dries stiff and keeps every hair in place. And that's what I use to clean my brushes with. This is just a paper towel. Now, I use these in all sizes from 2 up to 14. And then I have the filbert, the dabbers that I told you about, and a liner. Now my liner, and I know that some of y'all use script liners. I use a 1/2 inch liner because I am not good at curlicues, even though I use a lot of curlicues. But if it's less than a 1/2 inch, it is not a liner. It has to be a 1/2 inch or more to be called a liner. So this is a liner size number 2. I can make polywalk strokes with it, and you will learn to use the chisel edge of it, which, what am I talking about? You can take this brush, dip it in water, flatten it out in some paint, and it will become just like a chisel edge. Then you turn it just like you would do this and chisel with your liner. And I hope that's making some sense to you, trying to show and tell it with you. But this is the main thing I'm after, is your chisel edge of your brush right there. That is your main tool when you're painting. Now the flower is a different ball game. That'll be done with your filbert. So I hope that makes sense to you. I just wanted to go over brushes real quick with you. I do not use shaders. The reason is they carry more water in them, and I don't want a lot of water in my brush. I want paint pigment in my brush. The other thing I wanted to say is I use, let me back up again, Deco Art acrylic bottle paints. Every paint company has pure pigments. I do have colors that I purchase that are for backgrounds or whatever I see that's pretty that I want to add, but basically I work with like Prussian blue, pure pigment colors, cadmium yellow. And if you've ever painted with oils, those ring your bell a little bit. You've heard them before. And this is what you were to base coat with, which is called soft blue or something close to it. So I'm just going to show you that's what I use. Now for the technique I use Joe Sonia's retarder, or I use Traditions extender and blending medium. And you'll see why in a little bit. And you will need one of those or something similar to that tonight, because we will be using it. And so I have taken one of, I'm trying to move these out of my way as I do it. This is my little cup, which has the retarder in it. And you will see retarder in my instructions. And that's what that is. That I put right in the side again with my palette. Okay. So I am ready to go and paint.
All right, we're ready.
All right, now the first thing we're going to get into is we're going to learn to paint a leaf. All right, now I've got this with me right here, and this is my leaf at the top, and I'm going to use antique green. We're going to get out some colors right now, and you're going to need antique green, black green, and celery green. And you can immediately, when you get them out, let me move my palette where you can see it. Shake them good, because all those pigments get in the bottom. I'm putting out antique green, and this is clean. It don't look pretty, but it's clean. And if I were, this is a Stay Wet palette, and I work with Stay Wet palettes. If I were to tilt this, water would pour out. That's how wet your sponge should be to keep it wet. The next color I'm getting out is celery green, and that is my light value for my leaves. Come out of there. Okay, and then the next color, the dark value, is black green. And it's a beautiful color. And I would get out about the size, we're gonna leave a little bit more of this, a little more than maybe a quarter's worth, because it's gonna spread out on you. And you can always get out more if we need it. The next color is light buttermilk. And I'm gonna drop it down to here. Shake it good. And there's my light buttermilk. So I've got dark, light, medium. They're not in line, but that's okay. Now, we're not going to mix our flower color until we do a leaf. I'm going to start with a leaf. And I'm going to start right up here at this top leaf with y'all. And I would suggest that you have your pattern out, because that helps you to look at the pattern and know that your teacher took time to crosshatch all around behind this flower and up the vein. That means what I did was that I wanted the dark value here, and I have a little dark value where it dips here, but I didn't put it there. Then the dots represent your light value. Now, let's go back and repeat it. Your medium value is antique green. So you want to pick a brush that's going to best fit that area. You wouldn't want to pick up a number 4 to base that in. I'm picking up probably the bigger the brush, the less time you have. So I'm dipping my brush in water, and I keep paper towels in my left hand. And I'm going to drag that out because I do not want water in my brush. I want paint pigment. But I had to rinse it out because why? I had soap in it. So I rinsed it out, and I am pinching it to get the excess water out. So I'm coming up to this leaf, and I'm going to base coat with this color. And you should cover your pattern lines. If we had smoked this surface and you went to erase your pattern lines, now mine's a little dark because I wanted you to see it, the pattern lines, so I went over them with a pencil. Turn your brush on that chisel edge and slide up and get that tip on your leaf and come back around and paint right there. It's going to take 2 coats of paint. Now I'm pointing my chisel edge to that line because I want to cover it. And cover here. And I came right up to the flower. Carolyn, you tell me if I need to come in or that's a little far in. Hang on, girls.
I think you were good before, Nancy.
Was it good for them? Can they see that okay?
They can see it up close and personal.
Okay. Now, has everybody got one leaf painted? If you have more than one leaf, now's a good time to go ahead and paint that other leaf while you're waiting on each other, because I'm going to show you another technique in about a minute. So I'm going to paint one more leaf. Now I am on paper product. It's a type of mat board, and I just base coated it. So it's going to dry faster than if you're on wood. It may not. If you're on paper mache, it may dry faster. So I'm just going to drop down and base in another leaf while we're waiting. Cover your pattern lines. Again, and I can't stress that enough. And I never work from the middle pile of the paint. I work from the outside edge and gradually get a little green going right there. So I'm base coating, and if I get a hunk of paint, I start in the middle of the leaf to get rid of it, and then move that around instead of trying to put it on the edge, and then you've got texture. And it's okay to have a pile of texture paint if you've got it all through your painting, not just in one place. So I'm covering that. And this again is a number 10 flat that I'm working with on this leaf. Now, this leaf is dry. So, but I'm going to give it a minute, but I can touch it and know that it's pretty dry. So I'm just going to show you the next thing you're going to do while we're waiting. This is back to your chisel blender. Not your chisel blender, your filbert is what I need for you to have out. And you want to wet it in water. Now, if you have a new brush, you've got to clean it in soap and water and get the sizing out of it, because if you don't, you're going to end up with a brush that just doesn't want to work for you. It's stiff in places. You've got to get the sizing out. They dip it into some kind of soapy stuff that it comes to you stiff with every hair in place. Now, what I'm going to teach you is to flat surface double load. Can anybody repeat that? Flat surface double load. All right. Now, what did we say was the flat surface of your brush? Remember that? This is a flat surface. This is the flat surface. Turn it over, there's the other side of the flat surface. Are you with me on that? Now, if I take this brush, the filbert, and I come in, and I'm almost perpendicular to that green, and I'm gonna pick up some green on one side of that flat surface. It's on one side, not both sides, one side. Then I'm gonna turn the brush over, and I'm gonna pick up black green on the other flat surface. So I have black green on one side, antique green on the other side. Now, if I make a stroke, I should get two colors, okay? So I'm gonna press, and you can see that it'll come out light green on one side, dark green on the other side. And I'm up on that chisel edge, touch and press. I got too much of the dark. Let me get a little light, press. And there's your two colors. I'm gonna come in. I can't tell if y'all can see that, but I can't tell the two colors at all. But there's two colors, light green and dark green, medium green and light dark green. Okay, so what am I gonna do with that? I'm gonna come to this flower. We're working in stages so that when we get ready, everything will be ready to go. Now, in this design, we have a stem coming out, and it is on your pattern. And there are usually about 5 stems that run up into that flower. And I've found through the years it's easier for me not to draw or transfer pollywogs or stems or tentacles to this butterfly, because you get to try and keep on the line and you just give it that. So I've learned it's easier to freehand it. So now, if I come to this, and I'm going to have to do one thing for you. If I come to this, here is the bottom of your flower. It's coming around like that. And here are your stems, okay? You're going to bring your first stem straight down, and it kind of curves the other way, actually. Down, it's curving the other way, down to the leaf and comes in behind another leaf, okay? Now, what people do when they're making this stem is they will come here and stop, here and stop, and here and stop, and here and stop. And I want you to don't do it that way. I want you to come under, this is it again, and it kind of flows more to the right. So I'm going to take that filbert and I'm going to load it like I showed you, and I'm going to come here down behind the leaf. They have 5. I'm going to come here, join up here, and gently come down. That's 2. Come to this side, come in, and be graceful and join in. That's 3. 4, join in. 5, join in. You with me on that? So that's our next thing to paint. And then we'll go back to leaves. So we're working in stages so that we can get it done pretty quick. So back to my filbert, back to my loading it the way I showed you, flat surface double load with medium green and black green. Now, you can have the medium green on the left side, but just watch and then try it. I'm going to come here, and I'm about in the middle here, and I'm going to come down and stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And stop with the leaf. And you can come into the leaf, it isn't going to hurt it. And that was sort of a nervous twitch. Carolyn, can y'all see that close enough?
They can see it beautifully. Anybody
All
else
right.
want to say?
I feel like I need to come in for some reason. Maybe I'm pretty far back. So, okay, that is the stem we've done. Now, down at this one, there's a hint that it's here. So you can just barely load with a little bit of green and a little bit of black. I mean, these are tiny right down here. And I just kind of indicated that there was some up in there. Just about 3 or 4, whatever you can get there. And that is how I did the stems. Now we'll go back and we're going to paint the leaves. Okay? Everybody with me? Does anybody have a question at this point? Okay. All right, that's a good sign, hopefully. Now, I'm going back to my tin, back to my antique green, base coating in that leaf with a second coat of paint. And this gives me a better opportunity to cover the lines. Excuse me. And that's about as good as I need it right there. While it's drying, I'm going to drop down and get another leaf. And I'm not worried about my pattern lines because I really went over them with almost a charcoal pencil. But I wanted you to cover yours, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. And then I just let that dry. And you try to paint the direction it grows. And this grows towards the tip. The leaf does. Then I'm just rinsing that brush out and laying it aside for now. Now this is where I use my dabbers, girls. And this is where I use my retarder. So I've got my dabber, and I'm going to dip it into the water first, dry that out. When you're working with a dabber, you never jab it because it would spread out like a wild Indian, just a fan. I want to pull it through and drag it through. And that is how you dry it out, all of the brushes. Then I'm going to dip it into the retarder. The reason I want to dry it out good is because retarder and water or extender and water do not mix. So now when I dip it into this water and blot it on a paper towel, I'm not trying to get all the retarder out. I'm just dipping it in there to stabilize it. That's called stabilizing your brush. It now has retarder in it. Now I'm going to come up with a brush that is in bad shape. And it's this one. It has a very furry, fluffy edge, and you know how they get when they're worn out. I use that as my retarder brush, and that's what I call it, my retarder brush. So I'm going to dip into the retarder, and you're going to hear me say this all the time. Dip into the retarder, blot both sides on a paper towel. You're going to dampen the leaf. you're not going to soak it. I'm trying to get in here. Here it is. You don't want to soak it. If I paint just the leaf with retarder and turned it, the retarder would run off. So I want you to think of the word I'm going to dampen it. So if your brush is soppy wet because you're used to having a lot of water in it, please blot it on that paper towel. All right. Now when I dampen this, mine is dry. I'm going to come across and dampen. Come up this way. I'm not trying to do this, because if I do, I'm going to have a puddle laying right on that leaf. Now, I can tell pretty quick that I had too much retarder. So I'm going to wipe across again. And if I do, I can always take a clean paper towel and just blot it if I feel like I got too much. Now, that's your enemy. How much is too much? How much is not enough? And that takes practice to learn what is enough and what isn't enough. I may have to stop and put my cat out. He's settling down now. We'll see what happens. All right, here's my dabber. Now, I'm going to pick up my black green. And remember, I work from the outside edge. It's better to pick up too little paint than too much paint. So I'd rather get a little bit and see how it does than to pick up a whole bunch and then say, what am I going to do with all that paint? So I pick up a very little at first of my paint. Now on the pattern, the cross hatching was behind this flower, and this is my dabber. And I'm coming right in behind it. I may have to move the kitty in a second here. Let me finish this and get around here. And I'm just painting this. You see what I did? Now, you see the line that forms between the medium bayia and the dark bayia? And do you remember the value scale that we talked about? Well, I want to blend now and create those scale of the different values. I don't want to come all the way to the flower and blend, because what was he used to put it on? I want to blend where this line meets the medium bayia. So I want to come through and drag out and clean out that brush. And if you give it this, that's what I call a lazy wiper. You got to pinch it and look at the difference, what comes out. So I'm pinching out the black. I want to take this brush and I'm going to gently rub where the two colors meet and rub it. I'm just going round and round. And you can occasionally wipe off your brush because you'll see when you need to. And I'm just softening it as I go and blending up into that medium green and getting rid of that line. And I can bring it up this side if I need to. And then soften back across it. Now your next color is celery green. And I'm not cleaning out my brush. The leaf is still wet, but I did tell you that I put a little bit of dark in this little crevice. So I'm going to take a tiny dab of the black green, and I'm going to make like a C stroke right around that little dip of the leaf, right there. Wipe out my brush. You're wiping out the excess paint because you're going to blend. If you don't, you're going to take paint everywhere. So I'm going to soften or pat it or dab it or rub it. Either way, just right like that to get rid of that edge. Now I'm come down, I'm ready for my light bag, which is celery green. So I'm going to pick up the celery green, and I just pinched it good to get the black green out. I did not wash my brush because I like a dirty brush. So I'm coming into the edge of the celery green. And here's a pretty place to put it, right on that corner. So I'm going to put it in. I'm going to get a little bit more. It's better to get too little than too much. And I want to come up here with it, up into this, right up into the tip. Wipe it out because they're blending. I want to gently, and this is pretty if it hits your dark and mixes a little bit because it creates a bluish color. These three colors make a beautiful leaf. Celery green, black green, and medium green. I'm just cleaning that up a little bit. That is how I do my leaves. Now, there comes a vein. So what I do is I come in with the chisel edge of this same brush, the dapper, get a little bit on that chisel edge. And I think right here's a tip. I'm going to swing to the tip, but you never touch the tip. So I'm going to gently come in and pull and lift up, and I can repeat it if I need to. And that is your vein. Now we're working with blue here, blues in the flower, pinks in the flower. So you can accent your leaf if you wanted to, which I didn't get you get out the color. So I think I'm going to do it with a little bit of the deep burgundy. I like that color. So I'm going to grab a drop of deep burgundy, just a dot right on there, on my palette. Now, and I'm just coming back to here and let you see it. Here it is. I just want to touch and come over here and get most of it off. And I'm coming back. You always want to put, this is called an accent value. You're going to bring all your colors together. We could use blue to tie in with this. But since this one's here, I'm going to tie it in with this flower like there's a glow back from the flower of pink. So I'm using a dab of pink. But you always want your accent colors to go in your medium value, which is antique green. And you'll hear me repeat. So I'm going to touch it. Where am I going to touch it? There's not much room here. So I'm going to come about here. And can you see that color? Can y'all see that, Carolyn?
Yeah, we see it very well. Anybody having a problem seeing it? Nope, nobody's saying they have a problem.
All right, I just feel like you're so far back, I guess it's me. All right, I wiped it out, the excess off, and I'm gently rubbing that. Just to bring in that pretty color. And I can take it over into that and give it a little pink, but it goes in too. Just let it be soft. All right, that's how I paint every leaf. And on your pattern, it's going to tell you exactly where the dark goes. The dots represent the light, which is celery. Now, I can further lighten this and make it really glow. And that's, I first want to get that red out. And what color did we put out is the lightest on there, light buttermilk. And I do want to say to y'all, working with wildlife, I never use white. In fact, I don't even have a bottle of white. I use light buttermilk. If you've got white only, that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. But I want just a touch. Up in this corner where we've added the light celery green, I'm going to pat, scared my own self, get a little more. Well, get your little paint, Nancy. Put it right there. I patted it on, wiped it off, and I circled around and just further lightened that up a little bit because that hits the light up there. And you want to be able to tell you did it, that you put it on. And if you didn't, put it on again. It's your leaf. Okay. So I'm going to give them a minute because we're going right here to the flower coming up. So I'm kind of through with my dabble right now. And we're going to mix a color. And this is mix 1 that says mix 2 in your instructions. that I tried to be sure and tell you about. So don't blame me and say I didn't say it, because I've said it 3 times. And somebody told me I said it too many times, but it don't hurt to hear it over and over. Okay. Now, is everybody ready to move on to a flower? Where are we on time?
It's
7:00.
7:21, so you still have like an hour.
We're doing good. Okay. All right, let's move over here, girls, and you're gonna need boys, and need a palette knife. And don't come out and stir it up and do all that stuff. Act professional and have a palette. Now this is black green, okay? You're gonna need to get out your soft blue that you painted your background. And I'm coming right over here, side, near that. And when you're mixing colors, you always carry your dark color to your light color. So I don't say one part this, one part that, because who knows what your part is gonna be. But usually it's one part or 2 parts you'll say, but I find if I say, well, we're looking for a medium value, you do better. But if you always carry your dark over to your light color, you do it a lot better sometimes. But it's about, if we were to try to say what it is, it's probably going to be about 3 parts black green to this, Lord have mercy. Well, let's start. Pick you up some of this good stuff and mash it up like potatoes. Don't stir it. We're after a medium value. Now, if you got out a pot load of potatoes, like I did, I'm not going to do that whole pile. I'm going to stick to the side and get it the color, the darkest color. I'm going to keep going till I get it right. Carry my dark over there. If I were to carry this to this, I had to squirt out the rest of my soft blue. So here we go. And this is on your worksheet. I want it just a tad darker. And if your pile's getting bigger, take half of it and go for it. Don't mix up the whole thing. Okay, that's about, on the scale of between 4 and 5. I want it a tad darker. So I'm going to come here and then we'll look it over. That is mix 1, girls. Not mix 2 and not mix 5. Okay. That's about the value I want. Can everybody see that? I'd say that's between a 4 and a 5 medium value. The middle of the string. Now, is everybody ready to go? You need out 2 other colors, and you may already have out your deep burgundy, but I'm going to get out a little bit more. I probably have enough, but I'm going to get a little bit more. And your Prussian blue. And if you don't have Prussian blue, the blue you were going to use, midnight blue, will be fine. Okay, move that aside. So I'm coming up to this top flower. Okay, everybody with me. Now, I'm going to use a larger brush. Well, I'll just go with the same one. Doesn't matter. This. I'm moving up to you can go up to a 1/2 inch brush. You can go up to a 14, whatever you have. This is a 12 I got in my hand. All right, you might want to watch this and then do it. I'm starting out with the color we mixed, and it's mix 1. And I want to do a slap happy, come right around here, around my leaf, and get on there a little bit, and come right around. And don't try, and I don't want, one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to try to stay in those lines. I want you to go past those lines and soften it where it doesn't leave any texture or a line of paint. So I'm coming on down. This brush is sticking. I think the cat went to sleep. We have a little cat problem here in our house. I'm filling this in, coming all the way around. I have adopted quite a few, bless my husband's heart, and bottle fed them. So we're sort of overwhelmed with them. But they all have great personalities, and we love each one of them for different reasons.
How many do you have, Nancy?
6. Well, we actually have 5, but we have one that just walked in one day with the rest of them and said, I like it here. And we call him our come along, and he stayed. And he's a beautiful yellow cat. And so they've all been neutered, thank goodness. All right. Then we have one Shih Tzu named Willie. And we won't go into why his name is Willie. Willie go in the corner or Willie not? And he did. So we named him Willie. Okay, now, you see what I have done? That is totally base coated. Everybody with me. I am moving to, not even clean. I can wipe out the brush a little bit. Doesn't matter. While this is wet, I want to pick up a little bit of deep burgundy. And I want to come, you can either use the blue, it doesn't matter which side. I have pink on one side, and if you look at the plate, blue on this side, and down here, pink on this side. It really doesn't matter. But I picked up the red, so I'm mixing it in with this color. And you will see this on your worksheet. Now I want to blend it up into, that's called a grayish green we made. Up into that color, just like so. And work it towards the right and work it up. You want it to blend in with that color to soften it up. A straight deep burgundy is too strong. I'm wiping the brush out. I'm not cleaning it. And I'm picking up the Prussian blue, which is a scary color. And I'm coming to this side. And I'm blending right up into this gray color. Grayish green. Blend up till it stops and you can't get it any further up, and blend over towards your peak. And it'll create a little bit of a lavender color, which is pretty. And that's, you don't want to leave a ball, which you can kind of see I did there. So I'm going to blend a little more. But we're going to stroke over it anyway. And that's how I base coat those. Sometimes I don't do the blue and the red. I will just make strokes and add it as I go. but this comes through underneath and it's pretty. So the next brush we're going to need is your filbert brush.
1 minute, Nancy. Someone said, do we use extender when you were doing the deep burgundy and Prussian
No,
blue?
ma'am, no. You don't use your extender or retarder until you're in a blending situation. When you're painting something, you're painting. So we wouldn't be using any retarder till we come back to put strokes on it. Right now, we're just painting. Anytime you're base coating, no extender, because it keeps your paint wet. And we don't want that, and plus it thins it out. While I'm waiting on you, I wanted to tell you one thing about the retarder or extender, whichever one. I have found how do you know when you've got too much? How do you know when you got enough? The only thing I can say is practice till you get that soft look. But when you apply, like when we applied the black green to that leaf, if the black green seemed transparent or runny, you had too much retarder. So stop right then and blot your leaves and put it back on again. Does that make better sense? If it looks transparent, there's too much juice on there, too much retarder. I do not use gel of any kind because I found that I can come back later and varnish, and where I've used gel will take your name off. It'll take off your curly cues. So I do not use gel at all. And the book in the Library of Congress, when they did the second, they put retarder gel, and I told them they had to get that out when they reprinted it because it was messing up. It has been discontinued, the retarder gel. Okay, has everybody got that much done? Okay, all right. Now, I am back to my filbert, okay, which I put in my ear where I knew where it was, and then I couldn't remember. Okay, now, I want you to watch for a minute. If I came straight onto this flower, which mine's already dry, with a stroke that I'm getting ready to show you how to make, immediately it is a solid color. If I dampen my surface with the retarder first and make a stroke, then I get veins running through it. It's like if you put it on a dry surface, it's just stays like you put it. If you put it on a damp surface, it will flow for you. So I wanted you to watch the stroke first. I'm going to be using this mix that we made and the white. Now I call this the first placement of my petals, okay? And when I get down to the pink or whatever side, I will show you how to do that part. But right now we're up in here. So here's what I want you to learn first before we even dampen it. Let's practice the stroke of it. I'm going to come to this edge out here, flatten my filbert out as much as I can in that paint we mixed, mix one, okay? I'm going to tip it into the white. Now I'm going to press, lift up, press, lift up, press. The main thing you're after is in the middle, there will be your color showing through that stroke. Can y'all see that stroke, Carolyn? At all?
Anybody having a problem seeing the stroke? No, they're shaking their heads. They can see it.
Well, I can't see it, and I'm on top of it. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm flattening out the brush in my Mix one, keep that in your mind. Flatten out and mix one. Load it. And I'm loading it about halfway up my filbert, not all the way to the ferrule. Because then and here's another thing. If you come in here, and I'm gonna come to this little blue area where you can see it, and you go, here's a little, let me get a little way here. And you go 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll be here till tomorrow. You've got to make a nice petal. So that's why I want you to flatten out that brush and tip it into the white and press the brush, lift. It's like you were gonna make a polywog, comma stroke, eyebrow stroke. Press and lift up, press and lift up. Sometimes you'll only get 3 petals. Sometimes you might get 5. It just depends. So here we go. I'm coming over to my surface. First thing I'm gonna do is what? Dip in retarder, blot, dampen my surface. I want it to go over past into my background, not just my flower, because that's when I get it too wet. And it's pretty wet, and I'm gonna have to blot it. And I'm tilting it to see if I've got everything covered. Okay. And if I feel like it's too wet again, I just kind of give it that to make sure for safety. But I want it to stay wet. This paper absorbs. Is everybody ready? Just watch for a second and then you start. Coming into my, this is where I wish I could be there with you to show you close up and hold your hand and do it with you. It's tough. I am pressing, here I come. Number 1, tipped in light buttermilk. Press, 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 press. I'm gonna get a little one there. What's in the middle? That color we base coated in, okay? Now, you don't wanna make a star. They actually only have 3 petals. But if I told you to do 3 petals, or they have 4 actually, you would give me a 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here, a beautiful star. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to press your brush and think, I can use 5 petals. Some of them have 5 petals. Some of them don't even have but 3. But get over into your leaf a little bit and press and go past your pattern line, press and pull in. And the main thing I need is that dark showing through in the very center of your cluster. These are called clusters. Coming to my next color. And I'm gonna come here and I'm right over that leaf edge here, press, press, press. You can get with 3 there. Reload, press it out. Keep that color going. Keep coming down. Press, 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 pull in. And don't have them real far apart. They can touch each other. Don't forget that. Press, 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 and press. And leave some of your background showing, but don't have them so far apart that they look like 1 petal. So I'm go ahead.
What is your brush?
What is my brush?
What number? Is it
It's a 6
it's a
filbert. Number 6 filbert.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, if you have to go to an 8, you might not need to press as hard. And if you have to go to a 6, you're going to have to flatten it out in the paint a little more. If you go down to a 4 or what have you. But I'm working with a 6. But I'm really flattening it out in the paint. The mix 1. Does that help you? Okay. Press. Now I'm getting close to that pink. Lord have mercy, what am I going to do? closer and closer. And it's going to be fun. But I want to get a little bit closer. Now, is everybody about that far down? I'm going to keep going because we're going to not get to the butterfly. But cover your pattern, go past out there where you have it marked. And you see how soft that looks? If it were dry, it won't be soft. It just stays where you put it. And it's chalky, but I mean, it's just doesn't have any veins. If you look real close, there's little tiny veins from tipping in mix one. Now I'm going to just wipe it out, my brush, because I'm going to go over to deep burgundy. And this is scary. Don't get scared, we'll fix it. We're going to get into the deep burgundy. And I'm going to tip into the white. So I get a little pink pile going here, right there. And I'm coming to the deep burgundy, and I'm going to touch and push and pull. Get right over those, it won't matter. But don't go straight deep burgundy. Back into my deep burgundy. Light buttermilk, same little pink pile. Each time you'll get a little pink going. Press, pull in. And again, you'll know when you got to reload. Press, press, pull, lift. And I'm coming, and each time I'm coming back, press, press, and just keep pulling in. And you won't get the same thing every time. Some will be lighter, some may be darker. And I'm working towards the blue. Getting closer to the blue. Now, as I get down to the bottom here, I want them to look like they're hanging down. So I'm going to just stop and look up. Sometimes it's better to stop and look at the next step than to try to catch up. And then you can move on and do that step. But if I come down here, I'm going to come across and lift up because I want it to look like it is falling kind of off of that a little bit. Now I'm coming to blue next. Now you see how this is a big difference between these two? We will fix that when we repeat it in a minute. So I'm going to wipe my brush out. I'm not even going to wash it. Going into the Prussian blue and into the pink. Light buttermilk. So I got a little blue pile going now. A light blue pile. And I'm just going to hit right over a couple of those pink ones and join up there. They have all colors. I had one blooming this year with lavender, blue, and pink in it. It was really pretty. But I've touched across, went over into my deep burgundy. Prussian blue, making a little pile in light blue. Press, press. And you can do, when you learn to do this, you can paint these in no time. You can paint them on, go real fast when you get the hang of it. But you got to practice. And it sounds like y'all aren't saying a word, so you must be knocking it out. So here I am. I'm just about to the bottom with my blue. Pick up more. If I don't pick up more, I don't get those beautiful veins come through. Come over, come past the line. Down here, some's going to drop off. Right here. And if you overlap it at one of your petals, that just adds depth to it. It does not hurt it at all. Now that's where I'm going to stop, right there. Same brushes, same colors. Now at this point, you got white, light pink, and light blue. So now we got to go lighter. So that means more light buttermilk on your brush. You're going to dip in your mix one, but you're going to add more white to it. And mine will be dry in no time. Now, is yours drying? We got to get out another color for the butterfly. We need the Prussian blue. We need, now girls, look at your butterfly. You don't need a bucket load of paint to pour it out and throw it away. You need a drop of Victorian blue or two, drop or two. Shake it up. And look at that tiny body of his. You know what you need? A drop of charcoal gray. Now I'll repeat the color, so don't panic. Okay, first color I got out was a Victorian blue. Next color is a drop of charcoal gray. And we can make it probably black and white, but let's just use it while we got it. A drop of charcoal gray. You've got your light buttermilk and you've got your Prussian blue out. And now you need a drop or two of black, plain old black paint. Lamp black, ivory black, whatever black you have. And that'll hold us for a minute. Now I have moved down to a number 6 flat or 4 flat for this little body. And let me grab some for you. Looking for it, it'd be right here, and it is. Okay. This is an enlarged one. What I would do, excuse me, let me get a little sip of water. This is your blue. This is Victorian blue. The blue in this is Victorian blue. The black in it, don't worry about it because I can show you a real easy way to put those black lines in. This is the Victorian blue is shaded with Prussian blue. Okay, Victorian blue is just the lighter value of Prussian blue and white. Now, this is his little body. And that's why I thought, well, let's just get a drop out because that's all we need. Here are his antennas. Okay, the difference between a butterfly and a, let's see, I get into one to tell you everything. The difference between a butterfly's antennas and a moth's antennas, do you know the difference? A butterfly's antennas have a little knob on the end, like that. If it is a moth, they have a furry antenna. That's how you tell the difference between a butterfly and a moth. They have a furry, y'all probably knew that, but I just like to tell you. Now, the butterfly is made up of scales. Like a bird is made up of feathers, the butterfly is made up of scales that overlap each other. So you're going to be chiseling again. So here we go. Now, I'm going to start and I'm going to get in, let's get in our white area first so we don't get confused. where it is. So right here is white, jumps over, and it's white and white. You with me? Now over here is a little bitty wing, and there's white, excuse me, and jump over, and a tiny little bit of white right there. So I'm going to start with my light buttermilk. So let's move it on. So white is here. Now here's the deal. When I get my white in here, I want to chisel into where the blue is going to be with that white edge of your brush, the chisel edge of your brush. So you're thinking chisel, 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 little tiny scales he has, and it gets smaller as it comes around. And what are you going to do to the other side? You're going to chisel towards the blue part and chisel back towards the other blue part. So you're chiseling two ways. Chisel in and chiseling back and come in. You can about get that with one coat. And then I'm going to jump over and get that little tiny area on the baby side, the little other wing. And I'm just using the corner of my brush and chisel the best you can, and don't worry about that. There's two little tiny places there. Then I'm going to come in towards the body. And you do not chisel into his body. You're just going to come around his body. Then when you get up to where the blue area is going to be, you're going to chisel into that blue area. Just a quick little chisel, chisel. And I did put a line there where there's one little pencil line there. I'm going to jump over and come on and down, around. And I'm turning it so that I can get to it. So don't ever feel like you can't fix it where you can get to it. Unless you're double jointed, I have to turn it. And then just smooth it out around his body. So you can see it's chiseled into where the blue's going to be, and it's chiseled both ways in this area. Then I'm just going to rinse the brush out. And I'm moving on to the Victorian blue. Now, on the Victorian blue, it does indicate it's chiseled out there a little bit, and it is. But don't do it way out there. Keep it very close, because you're going to come back later with black. So when I chisel it, I want to chisel towards where the black is, or the outside edge is going to be, and it kind of comes like little C strokes kind of, and then back into what? You're chiseling back into your light or white buttermilk, whatever color. White, or let's call it white. Looks white. And come right around as close as you can and come into that line. Now this whole front line here is blue, Victorian blue. Comes straight around to the body. And I'm gonna go ahead and get here, and in this area, you gotta chisel up and chisel down towards his body. So I'm assuming you're with me. Chisel up. This is a quickie 2 hours, girls and boy, Mr. Larry.
Hey, Nancy, just having fun. You know, time flies. That's what they say anyways.
I don't know. And I'm just dropping that in like with my chisel edge to come in there to separate that a little bit. It does go fast, doesn't it? Then this little blue area here. And watch how much paint you get on your brush. Like I just got too much for that tiny little place. Then I'm gonna try real hard to get in between those two whites. Just a touch over there. And then around the bottom of his wing, you chisel both ways, chisel out and chisel in. When I took the photograph of this, it turned out so dark. When it's a beautiful blue. All my little kitties have gone to sleep. They hear me talking and they think I'm talking to them sometimes. Now, if you painted faster, you can go right back up here and get that second coat on this real quick. It doesn't take but a second. And I was hoping you might be on paper mache because that does dry fast. I'm just hitting it with a second coat. Second coats are always quicker. Man, that is a quiet group. Do they have microphones on or are they asleep?
No, I had everybody mute because a lot of people have background noises.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just.
So
Monday
they're in there,
shortcuts with Zoom.
they're in there somewhere, huh?
They're all busy. Their heads are down and they're painting along with you, Nancy. So
We're enjoying
We're too
ourselves.
busy to make any other noise than our paintbrushes swishing back and forth.
Well, just let me know you're live and still there.
We're having a ball. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I'm moving fast, girls. Usually I'm a little slower, but somebody told me today I repeated the same thing 5 times, and I thought, well, then why didn't you get done in 5 times? But you got to repeat it, girls. I have to repeat it to you because sometimes we don't hear it the first time. Well, I don't.
I agree with you. You get in your zone and you don't hear things. So it's good to repeat it.
Well, you're only going to remember 10% of what all we did tonight. That's been proven. So it's good that we can now video things. Okay, his little body is charcoal gray. And I'm just rinsing out that blue color. Charcoal is going to kill that color anyway. And I'm doing his body. And I'm going to, while I'm doing his body, tell you that he is going to have a little touch of highlight on him when I get him done. And we'll go over that. And I do it while it's wet. Comes out to a little bit of point. And you can't give him eyes and all that good stuff. He's too far. He's flying. You can't see his eyes. And here's his little head, rounded as we can get it. A little fat body. And then his little tail. Now, I wanted you just to glance up while his body's wet. I'm going to come by and remember that corner of the brush. I'm going to touch in that light buttermilk blend one time because I don't want a lot. And I'm just gonna come around while that's a little bit damp and dampen the, I can't remember, it's the top of his little body, just to soften it. And his little head. And then I came here and came around the little bottom of his belly like that, but did not do his head.
Can you all see that?
That's called a double load. What'd you say, Carolyn?
I was asking them if they could see that. I see some people squinting. Do you need her to zoom in? Could you zoom in on that one,
I'll be
please?
glad to. Now, let me come around. Can you see it?
They
You
can,
can barely see that white. In fact, we could have left it off. But the charcoal's kind of harsh, so I did just kind of lighten the top of him. And does everybody see it?
yes, I think they're all set now. Thank
Okay.
you.
Now, while that's drying, we're going to come back to the flour. How's that?
Yep, they're with you.
Okay. We might just get done here. I didn't know how serious you were about that 2 hours, but I was going to try. Okay. Now your flour should be dry, right? Let me get this a little over this way where y'all can see it good and up. Okay, you ready to do the flour again? So I need that brush I've been using for retarder and my filbert, okay? And we were talking about it a little bit before. We're gonna need a little bit more white this time. So mine is dried from that retarder I put on there, so I'm gonna have to dampen it again. So hang with me. I dip in the retarder and I blot on the paper towel, then I dampen. Fast as we can. And I'm sure paper mache is about what I'm painting on. And also those little porous boxes, you have to kind of work this down into those grains of the wood. Okay, there you be, it's wet. Now, just watch a second. I think it helps you to watch, and then, you know, here's what you got to think. I'm going to do these lighter, and I want you to think, I don't have to get on them. I'm going to play like they're not even there. And if your stroke is lighter, then it doesn't matter because they look like they're under it. And that's what's creating that depth. And then when you get here, you got to get a lighter pink and a lighter blue. Now look back at this. These, you can barely see anything back in here, and you get lighter blue. Look how light this one was. This should have been that light too. So we learning together. So here I go. Back into mix one and my light buttermilk. And you got a little gray pile going where you were before. Now, when you make a stroke and it's the same color as what's here, you got to think, oh, I got to get me some more white. So just go back and get more white and work it into your brush. So here's my first stroke. Press. You see how close it is to that? You can hardly see the difference. So I'm going to get a touch more white. Press, 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 press. Forget what's underneath. Load back in your mix one. back into your light buttermilk. A little more, do you? Press, press, and press. Only got 3 there. Coming over here, I want to get the top nice and light in the middle.
Nancy, is that just pure buttermilk? Pure
No,
light buttermilk?
No, honey, I'm dipping in that mixed one,
Okay, and
but
then
you
more
got-
buttermilk though.
but you're gonna have to get you a little bit more buttermilk, because if it don't come out lighter, you won't know you're doing it. And if you can't tell you're doing it, that's when you got to get you some more buttermilk. Okay? All right. So I'm going straight down the middle right now. You can't tell I got any on that one. But having that mix one on there, girls, creates the prettiest veins. It'll drag it and put it right on there if it's wet.
Nancy, I'm sorry. On the mix 1, what are the colors?
It was that black, green, and soft blue, the first,
Thank you very much.
that big pile we made.
Yeah, mine dried up. Okay, thank you.
Can you skim it off the top? I mean, can you take the top off of it?
I can just make a little more.
Okay,
I didn't know what they were. Thank you.
that's fine. You're doing good. All right, I'm gonna keep going, girls. If you was here, I'd give you some because I got enough for 3 people. Press, and I'm getting close to pink. And I'm touching over a little of the pink because I don't want it to just have 3 different colors going there. So I am to pink. So what's the pink gotta be? Lighter, okay? So I'm going into light buttermilk, deep burgundy into light buttermilk. I want a lighter pink. So come up here and touch into some of those and join up with them. So it doesn't look like it just came from nowhere. Look how much lighter the pink is. Light buttermilk. Come over, press. And don't go telling somebody you should have done this and you should have done that, because they won't know the difference. And especially the people that are going to get this will be proud to have it. You're good painters and good-hearted people to do this. I'm just trying to get it lighter. See how much lighter that's already looking right up here? Now I do work with a Stay Wet palette, Larry, because when I'm mixing bird colors and stuff, I've got to have it stay wet, and it'll stay wet for me for several days because I can't get back to it always on time. And it really helps me on paint, saving on paint. A little lighter there. And let some drop down again. You can cover some of your stem. And bring some over and tie in with that blue a little. Just gonna tie right in with it. And I'm gonna bring a little hint up here a little bit. Then I'm ready for blue. Lighter blue. Now I'm pushing on you a little bit where we can get back to the butterfly. So here comes my blue. If I lost my white. Pale, pale blue. And having that red on there, look there, it got me a little pink petal. That's pretty. So you never know what's going to happen when you're making these. And that's nature growing right under your brush. Let some touch your pink ones. That's kind of what ties it together. Yeah. Except I don't dip in blue and then red. Try that again. It should slide real easy for you if it's damp. Actually, mine could be a little bit wider at the top. Ooh, not quite so white.
Jackie,
I
go
ask-
ahead.
Could I ask a question?
Sure can.
With the darker blue flowers, what did you dip in first before the
Prussian blue. But you
Prussian
see-
blue?
Yeah, and then you know, in your if you look at your light buttermilk, you got a little pink place, you got a little mix one place, and you got a little bit of blue place. And that
So-
was Prussian blue, but you're gonna need more white.
Okay, thank you.
You're after a light blue, lighter than what you got on there. And don't be afraid to let some come on over towards the pink. It just turns it a pretty lavender color. Okay. I'm trying to hold on and be patient.
I noticed you put tints of pink, like in the lighter colors, as well as the blue.
That's what I'm getting ready to tell you. If you look, you've got a line here. You see what I'm saying, Carolyn?
Yes.
That, and you get it stopping and going. So I try to go back and either bring some pink up this way or more white down this way. But like this pink here, you see it on this petal, it was just an accident. And that's what I was saying, nature is just taking place right under your brush. And that's because there was a little bit of pink still on my brush when I made that blue stroke. Because I don't wash my brush. I don't wash those colors out. I just keep going across. And it graduates more. But this isn't quite enough. Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
I think that there should be more of this color down this way and this way. Because if you look, this is a little bit, let's look at this one. A little bit more white down there towards them. And look how much lighter the blue and the white is.
No, I see.
You see what I'm saying? It doesn't divide up so badly. Where this one is quite divided. So I need to go lighter on this, which is going to give it another third layer of getting into those colors. And it doesn't take long, but I don't want them to miss their butterfly, but he needs to dry. But I'm just going to dampen it real fast because they need to see that. But if I come back to that mix one and into my, I got too much. It's harder. I like for it to even, that had, look at that had a touch of pink in it. I love solid pink ones. They're just as pretty as they can be. But I think that you don't want them to so separate, like have three balls. That makes sense?
Does that make sense to everybody? They're saying yes.
Okay. So that means I had to come back with more of my mix 1. And I didn't clean my brush because it had a touch of pink in it and a touch of blue, and it's coming right out on this. So I'm just leaving it, but I'm coming on down. And then I'm gonna have to get a little blue, because if I don't, I'm gonna have white ones instead of blue ones, but very little blue. And that's getting that coming, and it's a very pale blue. And then I'm gonna have to switch over to pink, and I'll bring a little blue over and let it come into that. Now this is your darker going away, receding a little bit. So I'm gonna get a little pale pinker. I mean pinker. And I'll stick some there just to tie it. It'll really make you look at a hydrangea, because they can put out all colors in one flower, but we can't create exactly what God does with them. They're just grow beautiful. Now that looks better to me. It's softer all over. But when you get the centers in there, it makes a big difference. Okay, girls, I'm gonna tell me when. Tell them to give you a thumbs up if you're ready to go to butterfly.
You ready to move on?
I see
Okay.
a lot of thumbs.
A lot of thumbs is good. All right, we're gonna use 2 shading colors. We're gonna use a little bit of your charcoal gray and a little bit of your Prussian blue. And that's the only 2 in this. And then we'll use some black. So I'm getting into my retarder with the same brush I've been using. And I'm just coming out here and wetting this fella. And I usually go this way, so that I have no puddles. It does not hurt your background. The beauty of retarders, you can even use it on fabric, and it doesn't leave a ring out there or dry oily or anything. And I use it on mats. Sometimes when I bring leaves out on a mat. Okay, now I'm using right back to my little 6 flat, okay? And I'm just gonna rinse it out in water, dry it good, dip it in the retarder. That is to stabilize it. Then I'm gonna pinch it in my paper towel. Now this is wet, so I don't have to worry. So I'm gonna go and take the corner of my brush and get into my, and I'll come in closer with my charcoal gray. Now the charcoal's not gonna be that dark when it hits that white, because the white is wet. Let me move that a little bit. Come here, butterfly, don't run off. Got to go back and get it where I want it. Because I wanted you to see it. Now, oh, for heaven's sake, there he is. Okay, this is where this shading goes. It's coming around the body, and I did not come back here, but you can if you want to. But I shaded here, and then you can kind of call this a float, and down, and a little bit here. And I just sort of streaked it back a little to have a little bit of where it wasn't just so sharp white, just a little bit of shading. And you can put some here, doesn't take but a second. Just chiseling it in and then pull it out a little bit. And I did
Is
not.
that shading just charcoal?
But see, when it hits a wet surface, it's transparent, and that's what I wanted. We don't want it to be straight charcoal. I mean, we don't want it to come out straight charcoal. The next shading is your Prussian blue. And I'm doing the same thing, side loading with a little Prussian blue. And it's gonna go, I'm looking to make sure I tell you right along here. And I'm just chiseling it. And with it on one side, you don't have to do any blending. And come right into that center. Pick it up as you need it. Coming on around. Can y'all see this, or do I need to come in? Can you see it, Carolyn?
I can see it wonderfully. Does she need to zoom in? Anybody put your thumbs up if she does? Nope, they're saying she's good.
I'm just chiseling this dark blue right into that white, but I am not chiseling back. With it on one side of my brush, it's doing all the work for me. So I'm jumping to this bigger area, coming down. It's just to give him a little variety. He could be color but painted almost. And I did come a little bit here. Now I did come over here to this little tiny wing and separate with that color, the back wing from the front wing. And that is it, except for the antenna and the black lines and the centers to the flower. We're gonna need our liner and some black. And some light buttermilk. Did I say, we haven't gotten that cad yellow. And that is for the centers and the flower. Now you can use any color you want to, but yellow shows up real pretty in this. Shake it good, because yellow's kind of transparent. You don't need much. Just a drop or two. And we got black, we need black. Now let's finish our butterfly while we got it wet or damp. Here is my liner. I'm coming to my little black pile and I am flattening my liner out so that it becomes a chisel blender. Now look, if I draw a line, how skinny it is. Don't try to make a point, make it into a point. Flatten it out. And remember, I showed you how to turn it on its chisel edge. And just watch a second out here. I'm gonna, and you don't want this to be smooth. It's like a little rick, 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 down, rick, 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 down. Make you up a little point. Come on around and in. Come on around and down. Right there. Okay. Then I did come down the front of this. Right there. Flatten it out. And if it's not moving for you and the paint's drying, dip your brush in water. Just be careful you don't get it on your ferrule. Then I'm coming on around. It's a little bitty chisel. Looks like chicken scratching. You just don't want a perfect little round edge. So I'm just chickening it and come in. Then I'm going to try to move it so I can get to this one. On the back wing. the best you can and outline that and smooth it out. You're almost outlining him in black. So I'm coming to this inside part, flattening my brush, chiseling up just like he sort of did, making a little irregular edge right there. I did not do it to here, but I dropped down and did it here. Came on around here. There's still little chisel edges. That kind of brings him to life. And then we'll start our outline when you're all ready. But we got to put his antennas on there first. Well, we're in black. Let's stay in black and finish that. Is everybody ready for this is actually kind of fun, to tell you the truth. Do you see how I made, come around here, how I made this kind of come out? I followed that and I swung into there, then swung all the way to here and stopped. You stop right there. Now, down at his body, there are two V's upside down. And this is all I did. I started right here at the corner of this wing in the blue and came up and made a V, came up and made a V. Okay, you ready? We're going to keep going. Now, look how this wing has came around. We're going to just come in. We're not going to go into the V. We're going to stop at the V. Right there. Then on this one, where that point is, I'm going to come in to there. And this is kind of, you just kind of actually do what you want to on this part. I followed this and came all the way to here. Then and there is a couple here in that V. And then it looked like that they had a K in them, the letter K. So I just made a K to break it up. And you just follow. And I think you can look at your pattern and see it pretty good, better than you can with me. But you follow these edges and come in. And in. That one quit on me. Pick it up and repeat it. Come in. Get a little water in this. And then I'll show you how to make them. And I'm just stopping. Up here, I just took one of these and made a K. They have little funny lines in them. Over here, you can do the same thing. One night time I just went straight across and broke them up like that. And you're just kind of breaking them up. And there looks like there could be another one here, just a line to break that. It was not hard. That actually, I did much better on the real one than this one. The next is the antennas. And y'all have got an enlarged one that you can see that black. But let's get his gray antennas in, and then I'll show you the little white pollywogs that go on them are the little white things. And then the centers of the flowers, and you are done. Okay. So here comes the antennas, and I do say a little prayer to guide me with this, because it is tough. The back one kind of comes up and around, and the little front one is a little shorter. So, and make sure it's kind of juicy for you. I'm using charcoal gray and thinning it with a little bit of water. And make sure you got some paint. And here we go. And I flatten it out. Get that chisel edge going. So I'm going to come here, hold my breath, come around, and come around. Then he's got a little pump on the end. That could have been a little thinner. You can take a little retarder and clean off where your hand was if you got in the paint. Final color for the butterfly is light buttermilk. And I'm going to make some pollywogs or some comma strokes. I don't know what y'all call them nowadays. What do you call them nowadays, Carolyn?
It's comma strokes or pollywogs. Both of them work.
Okay. All right. I'm going to flatten out my little liner. And I'm going to make a little pollywog. Coming right down the front of this wing. This one. And there's 3 of them. And I'm going to go press, press, press. Press as much as I can there. Over here is that chicken scratching. Chick, 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 chick. Just little chisels. And it comes all the way around. And that is how I did that. Forgot this one. Just a little bit over there if you can. And the only color I need now is cad yellow medium. Now, if there's any questions, let's talk about it now before we finish it up.
Does anybody have any questions? Unmute yourselves and you're more than welcome to ask.
Did you get your enlarged butterfly? Did that come through for you?
They say,
Good. Good. I got a much better camera and printer that prints it out better now. Okay, you ready to finish your flower? Does anybody have a question before we go finish up the flower? Talk to me.
no, nobody has any questions.
All right, are you okay, Larry? Is he
He gave
still?
you a thumbs
I'm
up.
wonderful, thank you.
Huh?
I'm wonderful. You are great.
I've got the patience of Job, according to Carolyn.
You do?
I don't think my husband would agree with that, but I hang in here. All right, now let's look at this flower again, and we're going to do the hardest part of all, and that is done with your liner. And I'm trying to get him back in here, and there he is. And cad yellow. Now, look here, group. The wood end of my liner is going to go into this yellow. And I'm going to pick up a drop and dot and dot. And these are the centers to my flower. Now, your yellow needs to be fresh, where it'll come off your wood end. So just look a second. I'm going to pick out one and think, oh, I believe I'll put one there. Yellow is so pretty in them. And they do have little yellow centers, and then gradually they turn green as the flower gets older. And you don't have to put, you can overdo it. Just put them in some of those dark places. I said, remember, keep me a dark place in there. Don't forget to sign your name and date it. That'll mean a lot to who gets it.
Before y'all leave, I'd like everybody to put their piece up so we can get a screenshot of it. And at this point, I mean, you guys can unmute yourselves and say thank you to Nancy, say whatever you want.
Well, we ain't done yet, girl.
Oh, I take that back.
Get your centers in there, because that's what I want to see.
You what, the centers? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Don't overdo it now and put 9,000. Just put your few. That's what can mess it up in a hurry. Now, Carolyn, you want me to come back up to the camera?
That would be nice.
Okay. I can still walk. I'm doing good. I think they're a wonderful group to have. Before I go, you said I could show them what I'm getting ready to do.
Yes, Nancy teaches some classes, and I've taken some classes from her. It was quite enjoyable, and I learned a lot. So she just wanted to show you two of her upcoming classes in the event you were interested. And she is very economical, I have to tell you.
That's good.
Economical? That's not right. Well, I'm going up another $5 right now.
All right, she's
No,
very
you're not.
Okay. No, I've already set my price for this time. All right. They're going to paint this.
It's
Let me-
very pretty.
Let me pull this out real quick because it's shining.
I think I got it. I hit a thing for internet audio.
We are going, let me back the camera up here. Well, this is a Western tanager, and that's the most beautiful bird. And this is blue, and we smoked it with a candle and then put touches of color in it. And this, you see this branch right here? You know how I did that? Took a tin and flat surface, double loaded it and tapped along there. It goes quick. And we're only charging $200 to do this.
So I have to have a candle?
Well, of course, to smoke it, you got to have a candle.
Okay. Guess I'll.
All right. We ain't even got, and this is the other one. And
That's pretty too.
everybody needs to know how to make a basket. And that's all stroked in easy. And the little daisies are pulled in sort of like you did with the flower. Dipped in deep burgundy and pulled them in and tapped in the centers.
She's
Now the
not even
leaves.
doing it, she's showing all her artwork.
The what?
When are you
She
teaching?
tried
that?
selling her brushes at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Well, let me show you one other thing, and I'll leave you alone. Oh,
Nancy,
Well,
when are you teaching these classes?
when am I preaching?
Teaching.
I preach every day.
No, when are you teaching
Teaching.
them?
Teaching.
What
You
are
know,
you
these
teaching them,
brushes,
Nancy?
girls, I got every size you need.
Nancy, they want to know the dates on the classes,
I
please?
don't know yet.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Wait, I'm telling you a lie. Hang on. Vicki, when are you taking that class?
Carolyn knows I'm just so good at that.
All right, I am back up here to this camera and I'm gonna tell you the dates. Let's see here. How did I do this? Back
Now this
here.
is working up at the house just fine. I should have brought my paints up here.
And there I am.
Oh.
The basket starts March 1st.
March 1st.
And it's $35 and it's on a 9x12 stretch canvas.
but it's a couple of weeks, Nancy, right?
It takes 2 times.
Okay.
We're gonna do the basket, take a week, and the next one we'll finish the flowers. So I kind of break it up 2 times.
1st and the 8th. What,
And then I skip a week. Then I'm gonna skip a week, and then what would that be?
what's the times?
I'm gonna do it at 1 till about whenever. I put 1 Eastern. If y'all paint as fast as you did tonight, we'd be done. But it's for 2 classes and it's $35.
Okay.
Nancy, do you have a website where this information is?
Well, if you look on your pattern package, you've got my email.
Okay.
And if you're interested in any of it, I'll give you the dates. I just can't think right now and paint flowers at the same time.
I attached it on the Zoom invite at the bottom.
Okay.
I'll attach it when I send out the video, so you have the dates and the times.
Okay, thank you.
Y'all got my phone number, everything but my IQ. And look it up. And I'm getting hoarse and raspy as you hear me.
How's your little friend from next door, or your husband's friend? What's his name?
From next door?
Well, the young man that paints with you.
Oh, you
Mark, I can't remember his name.
The man that paints.
The
Young man
the
that
kid.
painted with you. You were teaching to paint.
Oh, Nate.
Yes.
Yeah, Nate.
He isn't coming to here anymore.
Oh,
He was coming here during COVID when they couldn't go anywhere. And he has a new person with him now.
okay.
And my husband is working with the same person. He works with people that have mental,
Yeah.
Issues.
I gotta tell you guys,
Middle
the mats with these birds make them absolutely beautiful.
well, those are birdhouse mats, and I
Yeah, they're
designed them.
nice.
They cut them out for me, and
Yeah. They're nice.
you can get the mat and the surface for $18.95.
Yeah,
You don't have to go buy a surface; it just comes together.
yeah.
And black coat's real pretty with a lot of birds because and it's a soft black,
Yeah,
and it goes good with the blacks and birds. And
Yeah,
then
they
I
really
use,
are
I
nice.
use other colors, but they're pretty on your wall when you get them hung up.
yeah,
You
they
bet-
are. They're very
You
pretty.
can paint them on anything. I mean, we can smoke anything. All right, anything else?
Did
And
you have a
everybody
third?
put their pieces up in front of their camera so I can get a screenshot though, please?
Oh,
Should
sure.
I cut this
Yeah,
off
yeah.
for this, Carolyn, bother you all this light? Should I cut it off
No, we're good. It's not bothering us at all.
for your screenshot?
Yeah, doesn't matter if it's done or not, ladies. Just pop it up there. No judgment zone.
They all look so nice.
They do. And look at this. I can tell who the speedy painters are. Gee whiz, Jolene and Loretta. You guys are quick. And Bonnie.
That is, well, now where's Larry?
I got it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, that is so wonderful.
Where's
gonna-
Jolene? I want to see hers.
Now,
Spot-
I have a third.
Thank
you, Nancy.